Hey tea heads, we continue our series of videos showcasing the remarkable ways that tea drinking can improve your life. And I'm brewing some amazing White Peony 2024 in the Guy one. Previously, we have seen how tea can help to bring you into a calmer and meditative state, how it can foster an acceptance of impermanence to reduce anxiety, and how it can build stronger, positive relationships with others and yourself. So check out those other 3 videos if you haven't seen them already. Today we're going to be focusing the discussion on the health benefits of tea. This is a video that I've been asked to make many times over many years, and it's an extremely difficult video to make because it's very hard to cover such a complex subject. It's so vast. And because I have to, of course, be very careful not to make any medical claims about our products. So, historically, I've avoided... Oh, the smell. Sorry. I'm not going to get distracted. But wow, that's an amazing smell. Okay. So, as I said, it's a vast subject. It's very complex. So I have to be careful as well not to make any medical claims. Historically, I have avoided talking about the health benefits of tea, but I cannot make a series about the positive transformations of tea without, of course, discussing health. And so let's dive in. But first, let's get all of the necessary disclaimers out of the way. Tea is one of the most studied plants in the world, with tens of thousands of papers and studies written about its potential health benefits. And there is no shadow of a doubt that drinking tea is, for most people, a health-enhancing practice. But governments of the modern world have divided food from medicine in order to ring-fence and profit from separate control of these two mega industries. This means that the moment that we make any claims about a food's therapeutic effects, we edge closer to medicine law, which requires licensing and millions of dollars of spending. This separation of food and medicine is, of course, absurd and leads us to a food industry generally unconcerned with our well-being, producing addictive and unhealthy foods, leading to a rise in previously unusual health conditions. It also means that people are more reliant on an expensive and unsustainable medical system, which is more focused on treatment of downstream symptoms rather than the prevention of lifestyle-related cures. Without a deeper dive into the politics and controversies of these subjects, let's just say that, in my opinion, the system needs to change radically. And this is an area that I have been working on for decades and continue to pursue. But for the moment, I can't make any medical claims about tea, and this video does not make any such claims. I also need to stress that you should never use tea or any information in this video as a substitute to seeking medical advice. Instead of making any claims about any of our products, I will just be reporting some of the findings of the larger meta-analysis reviews published in peer-reviewed journals. Hopefully that will keep me out of trouble. Another very important point to make before we begin learning about the health benefits of tea is to separate the results from the mechanism. So we may, for example, see results of studies which show that drinking tea every day has a positive effect on cardiovascular health, but that does not mean that we fully understand how tea achieves this result. We can speculate on the mechanism of action, and we can do further studies, of course, but the beauty and frustration of whole plant-based medicine is that we're ingesting hundreds of compounds working synergistically together in a variety of ways. Modern pharmaceuticals are more reliant on isolating individual active compounds from plants so that they can understand an exact mechanism of action and patent that isolated chemical and mode of action. But plant-based medicines do not fit neatly into this framework, which is one of the reasons for its inability to integrate with the existing medicine system of licensing. It is also the reason why we always advise drinking leaf tea and not taking isolated tea supplement pills, which do not give you the benefits and protections of the synergistic interaction of all of the chemicals in the plants. So I'm going to be avoiding discussions on how drinking tea provides health benefits. Sellers will often broadcast overly general concepts to explain the health benefits of tea, but this is not comprehensive and opens these claims to criticism. For example, you'll hear about the antioxidant power of tea, with studies showing that in the test tube, polyphenols, especially the EGCG in tea, has incredible antioxidant capabilities. But what about in the body? Do these antioxidants make it into our bloodstream in any significant quantities? Well, studies have shown that we actually only absorb about 2% of the EGCG that we consume, and yet there is definite antioxidant effect in our blood plasma after drinking tea. What many sellers do not talk about is the fact that EGCG can also have pro-oxidant effects on your body, which actually increases oxidative stress temporarily. And in the correct dose, this can be beneficial, making the body produce its own powerful endogenous antioxidants and potentially inducing cell death in cancer cells. So the action is much more complicated than simply drinking a load of antioxidants which directly go into your blood. It is the body's reaction to the tea which is key. It is for this reason that we have to be very, very careful about making generalized statements. Everybody is different and we will all react to tea slightly differently. It's also important that your tea drinking journey is tailored to you, and that means exploring different aspects of tea, different tea types, and seeing how they react to your body rather than just gulping liters of green tea because that's what the studies say, or taking tea supplement pills. Finally, I am only scratching the surface of the health benefits of tea in this video, with some of the main headlines. There are, as I said, tens of thousands of studies out there about tea and the potential benefits of tea in terms of health to help all sorts of conditions. So please do your own research carefully. Okay, enough disclaimers. Let's dive into some of the key findings of some big meta-analysis about tea. Let's begin with the potential cardiovascular benefits of tea drinking as I sip on this white peony. A meta-analysis study published in the European Journal of Epidemiology looked at 22 studies involving 856,000 individuals and found that increasing the tea intake by 3 cups a day reduced the risk of coronary heart disease by an average of 27%, reduced the risk of cardiac death by an average of 26%, reduced the risk of stroke by an average of 18%, reduced the risk of dying from any cardiovascular condition studied by an average of 24%. Another meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition found similar benefits, with green tea drinkers having a risk reduction of dying from cardiovascular disease of 33%, and that this was dose dependent, so that for every cup of green tea that was consumed per day, the risk reduction of dying from cardiovascular disease increased by 5%. So more risk reduction, therefore less risk. Clearly, the benefits would eventually stop. You can't just keep adding 5% in terms of your risk reduction, but it shows that the health benefits are not just coming from drinking tea regularly, but also the quantity of tea that you consume. There have been many other studies and meta-analysis published, and lots of them have been summarized in a large overview published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, in which they observed similar figures, with a 21% average reduced risk of stroke in tea drinkers and between 20 and 30% reduced risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Blood pressure is another big area to consider, with many downstream negative health effects. A 2014 meta-analysis published in Scientific Reports looked at 13 studies and a total of 1,367 people. The authors found that drinking green tea reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 1.98 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1.92 millimeters of mercury. Another meta-analysis involving 1,476 people found that regular green tea drinking reduced systolic by 2.1 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1.7 millimeters of mercury. All of these studies will be cited in the description below. Let me just drink some tea. So those are some studies, not a huge change in blood pressure, but pretty good, and it all helps. A smaller meta-analysis study involving only 408 individuals found more promising results, with regular green tea drinking reducing systolic blood pressure by an average of 4.81 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1.98 millimeters of mercury. So the evidence seems pretty consistent that tea drinking can lower your blood pressure by around 2 millimeters of mercury, which is not mind-blowing, as I said, but still a useful reduction. Cholesterol is another subject that we're often asked about, and once again, metadata studies have shown the positive effects of tea. One study published in Clinical Nutrition involving 10 studies and 411 people found that consumption of tea significantly reduced LDL cholesterol by 4.64 milligrams per deciliter. There are lots of other studies on cardiovascular health and tea, and I would recommend you reading the umbrella review published in the Annals of Medicine in 2021, where they cite so many papers for you to explore. So let's move on to see if tea can help in cancer prevention and reduction. This is often a very controversial topic in healthcare because there are extra legal restrictions about discussing cancer and alternative approaches, but the meta-analysis is pretty clear. So let's look at what has been published rather than any opinion of my own. A large umbrella review published in 2020 in Advances of Nutrition concluded that the studies showed significant associations with lower risk in gastrointestinal tract cancers like oral, gastric, and colorectal, breast cancer, gynecological cancers, as well as leukemia, lung cancer, and thyroid cancer. To be clear, you have these individual studies with their own conclusions. Then you have meta-analysis, which select a number of studies according to their own criteria of quality and compare methods and results so that we can get an even bigger picture and filter out studies with excessive bias or poor methodology. Then you have these umbrella reviews, which actually group together the studies and the meta-analysis to get an even wider picture and hopefully provide even stronger confidence in the results. There are lots of figures in this umbrella review. So here is a chart of some of the key numbers showing the risk reduction of drinking tea compared to no tea drinking in some particular types of cancer in the larger studies and the meta-analysis. It is important to say that the dose and the type of tea varies in the different studies, so you can find the citations to the review in the description of this video, and then you can dive in to dig deeper if you want to. But look at those figures. Makes me want to drink another Cai W full of tea. Another big umbrella review published in the Molecular Nutrition and Food Research Journal found that consuming 6 cups of green tea per day decreased the risk of gastric cancer by 21%, but that the risk decreased even more to 41% when drinking tea over 25 years. Similarly, they found that the reduction of risk of liver cancer was highest when consuming up to 4 cups per day for more than 20 years. This again shows that the quantity and consistency of tea drinking is key to get the best possible health outcomes. The same paper found that the consumption of black tea was linked to a 21% reduction in the risk of dying from cancer in general. So you can see that there is plenty of evidence which associates regular tea drinking to a reduced risk of cancers. So let us be unafraid to proclaim that tea has anti-cancer potential. Moving on, let's look at tea and its ability to help with weight management. This is another area that can get controversial, mostly because sellers have been making wild claims about the weight loss potential of tea, exaggerated in recent years with promises that tea just cannot keep. The evidence seems to suggest that tea consumption can help with weight loss and weight management, but that the effects may be relatively small. A meta-analysis published in the International Journal of Obesity found that green tea catechins did decrease body weight and help to maintain healthy body weight, with a higher effect in Asians rather than Caucasians, which may be due to the interaction between caffeine and ethnicity. A 2020 systematic review and meta-analysis published in Phytotherapy Research also found that green tea catechins significantly reduce body weight, body mass index, and waist circumference. The issue of weight loss, though, is that results will be so dependent on other lifestyle factors such as body type, body shape, exercise, diet, sleep, and stress. All that we can say with some level of confidence is that drinking tea can help to reduce weight and maintain healthy body weight, but not to expect big reductions caused by tea alone. Another area of huge concern in the modern world is the rapid increase in type 2 diabetes, partly due to poor lifestyle choices, and ultra-processed food options. Once again, tea cannot undo unhealthy lifestyle decisions, but the evidence does seem to suggest that tea can be helpful in preventing and managing type 2 diabetes. A cohort study of nearly 500,000 people published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition concluded that tea drinkers were about 8% less likely to develop type 2 diabetes than non-tea drinkers, and also had about 10% risk reduction of developing microvascular complications from diabetes. These figures are not huge, but show that tea is a positive influence on diabetes prevention and management, especially when consuming 4 or more cups per day. A cohort study, systematic review, and meta-analysis published in Nutritional Research concluded that 4 or more cups of tea per day reduced the risk of type 2 diabetes by 17% compared to non-tea drinkers. Similar results were concluded in a 2009 meta-analysis published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, with a 20% risk reduction of type 2 diabetes in those who consumed 4 or more cups of tea per day compared with non-tea drinkers. Another area of concern in an aging population is cognitive decline, and tea drinking has shown great results in helping to prevent cognitive disorders in older age. A 2022 meta-analysis published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience involving over 200,000 people found a 24% risk reduction of cognitive disorders in tea drinkers. This follows a 2016 meta-analysis published in PLOS One, which found a 35% risk reduction in cognitive disorders. So you can quite confidently put the risk reduction of cognitive disorders at later age to be somewhere around 20 to 30% risk reduction if you drink tea regularly. This is quite astonishing in my view, and should encourage us all to quaff more of the good stuff. Right, let's move on to gut health. The microbiome has quite rightly in recent years become the subject of interest in medicine and amongst the public, as we recognize its importance in determining so many aspects of our health, especially in immunity and inflammation modulation. There have been numerous studies which show that tea polyphenols have a significant impact on the gut microbiota by promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, while inhibiting the growth of pathogenic bacteria and potentially contributing to improved digestion and immune function. This effect is thought to be largely due to the ability of gut microbes to metabolize tea polyphenols into bioactive metabolites that can further influence the gut environment favorably. A 2019 systematic review published in Nutrients showed that drinking 4 to 5 cups of green tea per day increased proportions of the beneficial bifidobacterium, and that dark fermented teas, HR ripe teas, modulate microbe diversity and ratios favorably. There are many other studies which clearly show that polyphenol consumption in general is great for your microbiome, so you can dive into further research. And we could go on and on with different areas of research showing the benefits of tea drinking on health. For example, a review of studies published in Nutritional Research show a distinct beneficial effect of tea on bone health. There are also studies showing possible benefits to oral health, arthritis, mental health, and many other conditions. These tend to be a little bit less robust in evidence, in not involving huge meta-analysis, and I would encourage you to find studies with larger cohort numbers and ideally meta-analysis in order to find out more information. But the big picture is clear. Tea drinking is beneficial to health, with a UK prospective cohort study of nearly 500,000 people concluding that the risk of dying from any cause is reduced by 11% in those who drink the most amount of tea per day. Pretty special drink we're talking about here. But what about the potential harms of tea drinking on health? One key warning is to avoid drinking excessively hot liquids, as it has been shown that drinking liquids over 60 degrees Celsius, which is about 140 degrees Fahrenheit, increases the chances of esophageal cancer significantly. So please let your tea cool a little bit before brewing. This is another advantage of gone through brewing, with smaller cups cooling the tea quickly. Another note of caution is that tea can reduce iron absorption when consuming with meals. So if you are prone to anemia, then it is wise to leave an hour between tea drinking and eating. Tea can also interact with other medication, and so it's always worth discussing tea drinking with your doctors, but be aware that they often know very little about tea and may advise you to avoid tea on the basis of caution instead of knowledge. Finally, it is important that the tea which you are consuming does not contain excessive metals or pesticide residues which can be harmful. And this brings us to a key point, which is that the studies cited do not, in general, the vast majority of them do not concern themselves with the quality of the tea leaves. Clearly, this will have a huge impact on the corresponding health benefits, and I think that it is safe to assume that the vast majority of the tea that is used in these studies would have been commodity tea. How much better would the health effects be if the tea being consumed was pinnacle tea? Who knows? But I'd like to think that the benefits would be even greater. Another part of the research which is missing is the method of brewing. When a study says that a participant drank a cup of tea per day, we can only assume that this means around 250 ml of a Western style brewed tea, probably a tea bag. How would the effects change with Gongfu brewing of top terroir tea? Finally, the type of tea being studied has invariably been green or black. What about all of the other tea types? How do the effects of a light oolong differ from a dark oolong or a white tea from a fermented HR? While almost all of the evidence for the health benefits of tea are focused on green and black tea, this does not mean that these are certainly the healthiest tea types. I always advise drinking a variety of teas and to purchase for enjoyment rather than health. If you explore the taste of tea and you enjoy the experience through that exploration, you're much more likely to drink wider varieties and higher amounts, which can only be good for your health. Tea is and has always been a medicine. Thousands of studies show without a shadow of a doubt that tea drinking is overall beneficial to your health. It has also been clearly shown that those benefits increase with the amount of tea that you consume and your consistency of consumption. So we should all be unafraid of pointing people to the mountains of evidence out there showing the health benefits of tea rather than being fearful of accusations of being snake oil sellers. Of course, we need to recognize that the effects will differ from person to person and condition to condition, and there'll be huge variations depending on the tea type, quality, dose, and brewing style. We need to be cautious about making blanket claims, and we should never substitute tea drinking from seeking other medical advice. Instead, we should simply enjoy the act of daily tea drinking. Make it a part of your daily lifestyle. Indulge in the majesty of the tea experience and let the health benefits reveal themselves over the years. And of course, we should invite others to begin their true tea journey to improve their health and find a love which will last a very long lifetime. So I raise a cup of tea potion for you, to your tea health, and to many, many, many years of tea sipping. Cheers, everybody. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.